I have read 19 books this year, so join me as I tier rank them. Let me introduce the tiers to you. First of all, reading this book altered my brain chemistry. Reading this book altered who I am forever. I need to hold the hand of the author and personally thank them for bringing this book into the world. Second slot is gonna be and this I created this for a very specific book. It's objectively a great book and I really enjoyed it, but it didn't affect me whatsoever. Like, it did not change who I am, and that is what it is. And then we have it was alright, nothing special. It did nothing to me. There's distinction between it was great, loved it, didn't affect me, and it was alright, mid, didn't affect me. They're different. And then we've got books I'm not too sure how I feel about. And my final rank is I expected better. And that's just, I feel like this year I've read either books by authors, I've read books by them before and I just was disappointed, or I don't know. I just feel like there have been quite a few disappointments this year where I expected better. Alright, let's go, lads. I want you guys to know that I am actually tier ranking them and that this website sucks, and they need to work on it. Also, I've lost my rings. I don't know where they are and I'm super sad. I'll find them within 15 minutes after filming this video, bet. Alright, let's start. We're gonna start with the first book I read this year, which is The Unmaking of Farrow, which is the book that I created the second tier for, which is, I think it's such a good book. I gave it 5 stars and I loved it, and I remember a lot more than I usually would in a book that I feel this way about. Like, I remember details of this book. My only thing is that there are certain hurdles in the plot that I just cannot look past. Like, it's about Farrow, who comes from this like family of women that go mad, and it's actually because at a certain point in their life they go through a red door and then they start living in different timelines, and it's pretty cool. First of all, kind of weird plot holes, like her grandma and her I don't know, it's weird. I like weird and I am super willing to suspend my belief. Like, I don't care about realistic things. It's just, it felt like there was a lot of stuff missing. I felt like I needed at least 50 more pages. And the fact that this white woman moves back to like the 1950s in a country, in a state where slavery was quite rampant, but that's never mentioned in the book. Like, the author makes a note of it and is aware of it, but I just, like, I don't know, if the main character were not white, this book would not work, and I just cannot get past that. Book number 2, the most famous girl in the world, Iman Harukia, your hand so I can shake it. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I love this book. I love this author. I will read anything she publishes. I'm just obsessed with this book. It altered my brain chemistry. The last 2 pages are not real. I've spoken with a few people about this. The last 2 pages are not real. I don't like it. And I know the author has said, oh, some people have chosen to not believe that as canon, and I respect that. I am those people. But I love this book. It's about the journalist Rose, I believe her name was, who is like she's kind of crazy. She's unhinged. She's insane. And she put this like lady behind bars, and she comes out and she's like a super famous socialite, and she's like, no, I'm sure she's done something criminal, and everyone around her just gaslights Rose into thinking she's crazy. But turns out Rose isn't crazy. That other girl's actual psychotic. Like, yes, Rose is unhinged, but like legally unhinged. I can't even say that. No, she does some pretty illegal stuff. Anyways, read the book if you like fun, if you like whimsy. It's so funny to me. Sometimes I read a book and then like the main complaint will be like, the main character was so annoying, and I'm like, hi, I just turned Nour here. My phone cut off for some reason. I was trying to say it's really funny to me when people are like, oh, this character is so annoying, blah blah, but then I relate to the character a lot, and I'm like, oh, so we wouldn't be friends. So obviously the most famous girl in the world goes top tier. This book altered who I am forever, and I will recommend it forever. Next up, Madonna in a Fur Coat. ask me to explain this book. I don't know. When I was a wee little girl in school and we would get asked what was the author's purpose of writing this book, I never knew the answer. I've been out of high school 5 years. I still don't know the answer. Like the book is about yearning and pining and like a once in a lifetime love and sad. Didn't get a single tear out of me. I don't know. People were like bawling their eyes out. I feel nothing about it, and therefore it'll just be mid. Did nothing. Next up, I'm gonna put these two together. The Sunbearer Trials and Celestial Monsters by Aidan Thomas. I read Aidan Thomas's other book, Cemetery Boys. Love that book. I love that book. I love it so much, and these books were no exception. Okay, so the Sunbearer Trials ends with a plot twist that I did not see coming. I was telling my sister the plot, Layla, it's the Layla and Nour show. I was telling Layla the plot, and when I told her about the plot twist, she was like, yeah, I saw that coming from a mile away. Not me, even though I'm usually pretty good at calling stuff. Like, I usually figure it out. But this one had me blindsided, and I love it. I loved reading a YA fantasy book where like the romance is really the side plot and there's so much going on, and there's mythology and there's like Latin representation. Everyone's gay. Everyone and their mother is gay. I love it. So this book altered who I am as a person. I feel like I hadn't read a YA in a while, and this book made me want to reread YA more often. I was like, ooh, I think I want to be back here. Our next book is When Haru Was Here by Dustin Tao. Dustin's first book. What was it called? You've Reached Sam. I couldn't finish that book. I DNF'd it because I sobbed my way through. This book did nothing. I will say there were 4 pages that had me bawling like a little girl. Sobbing, screaming, throwing up. I just realized I don't have earrings on. Well, I have my seconds, but whatever. And okay, plot twist. Plot freaking twist. That also had me blindsided, and I was super impressed. I did feel like there was a part of it that was a bit just like shock factory. Like, okay, you got your shock factor and you did nothing. It is something to it. I did move on from it pretty quickly. Haven't thought of the book since. So I'm gonna put this in the disappointment tier, which makes me really sad. But it is what it is. Another book that's going in the disappointment tier. How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. I've never read by this author. I don't know if they even have another book. I do remember that it was gay and it had basketball in it. So I was like, ooh, 2 things I like. That was it. That was where my likes stopped. I don't really remember much about it. I do remember that the main character who like had a crush on the other basketball player when she was younger, which is like fine, whatever. I just remember feeling like, ooh, why are you acting like a little child? Like, it makes me think of that one Sarah Adams book where the entire book she's like, I want to be taken seriously, with a pout on her face, and all she does is complain. No one's taking you seriously if all you're gonna do is complain. Trust me. I'm gonna have to hold myself back while I talk about Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham. You guys know, if you know me, you know that Out on a Limb has me in a chokehold. It has me grabbed. It has not let me go. Since I read it 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I don't know. I started reading like Hannah Bonham Young's books right before Out on a Limb came out. And I was like, oh my god, banger after banger after banger. And then Out on a Limb. And my life changed. It altered who I am forever. Like, something shifted between my eyes. Like, I could not move on. And then this book comes out. I cried my way through the book. I laughed my way through the book. Like, audibly laughed. Sarah and Caleb are my children, but also my parents, but also my best friends. And I, like, genuinely, like, I finished the book, turned off my iPad because I was reading the EPUB, and just stared at a wall because, like, I could get checked up talking about it. I could cry. I have cried talking about it. I love them so much. There's no doubt in my heart that this is a book that I will reread over and over and over again. I have not been able to reread it because it makes me a little bit sad. I cannot wait until these books are available in Australia so I can physically hold them and shove them into everybody's faces. I love it. And those were my reads for January. Alright, moving into February. I feel like February was an interesting read because I read Spiral in February, and Spiral did I do. Listen, mate, listen, it's a shame when a book that you've been really excited for disappoints you. It's an even bigger shame when the book that you've been really excited for that has a cute cover disappoints you. Like, look at this. Look at it. What a shame that this book is just not good. And sometimes I genuinely think about just sitting down and filming like a 10-minute rant video about all the reasons I don't like this book. And let's go back to the part where I said I'm so willing to suspend my belief when it comes to certain books. This one was not it. Main girl is a ballerina and she's like applying for like the most important ballet company in the state, nay, the country, and they're like, no, we can't accept you because you don't have a big YouTube following or Instagram following, whatever it was. I would get it if it were like a small company that lives off donations and stuff, but you want to tell me Novo Amor, whatever the company was called, was like, no, we can't hire you. And at the end of the book they hire her because she got a lot of Instagram followings from fake dating some big shot hockey player, and they give her the main role. I can't do it. That's just, it's not for me. It's not for me. My next book, I hope it physically don't tie. I do. Cinderella is Dead. Cinderella is Dead is such a cutie book. Actually no, it's kind of sad. It's kind of depressing. A Cinderella retelling, gorgeous cover, gay. I really liked it. The only reason I gave it a 3-star is because I wanted more. I feel like there was quite a few, I don't want to say like plot holes, but I just feel like there were quite a few plot points that definitely could have been elaborated a bit more and worked on a bit more. It had so much more potential, and like I really think it could have been a better book. That being said, I believe it's the author's debut and I'm excited to see what other books they have out. And I don't know why there's a band-aid as a bookmark. I've read this book. That being said, had I read this when I was 15 or 16, I would have eaten it up. I did eat it up at 22, 21 technically. I read it for my birthday, but teenage me would have loved this. Next book is a graphic novel and it's called Wash Day Diaries. Listen, I don't usually like graphic novels simply because I can't connect to the characters. I need more pages to connect with you. This one though, I loved. I can't really tell you much about it because I just feel like you need to read it and enjoy it, and it's just like such a cute feel-good story of friendship and sisterhood and just women being women, and I love it and you should read it. My next book, Let the Games Begin. I wanted to read this ever since my good friend Carla posted about it on her Instagram, and I was like, ooh, I want to read this. A sports romance, people of color, and it's set in Athens during the Olympics. Say less. I read it, I ate it up, I loved it, and it altered my brain chemistry. Like, I just, like, it's such a good book with nuance, with substance. Like, the main characters, I was rooting for them. I really was, and it was so real that I loved the discussions. I loved the conversations that took place in this book. I'm giving you guys nothing about these books, by the way, so this isn't for you, this is for me, for my fun. I'm just tier ranking, so I'm gonna put this top tier. Another book on my top tier is Where Sleeping Girls Lie. I've wanted to read this book for ages, and boy oh boy am I glad to have read it. I feel like I read They're All Thinking It last year, which in my head they're kind of similar, but this one's a lot more dramatic, a lot sadder, a lot more like serious. I loved it. There's really nothing you can say about this book that does not spoil it. I will say it's a dark academia book, but it actually criticizes the academic institute they're at, which is what I like in my academia books. It's a black female main character who does not take shit from anybody, who stands up for herself and does what everybody else is too scared to do, which is like, granted she's 17, which had I been 17 I would not have done half the things she did. And I just like this, it's so perfectly everything I want in a book, especially I feel like in a YA book, or I feel like this book would have been perfect as a new adult book as well, but it was just perfect and top tier for me. My next book is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. I'm gonna say mid and did nothing for me, personal opinion. Let me tell you why. I just think this is a great book if you've never read about intersectional feminism, if you've never read any feminist literature really. I think this is a great book. I think it's a great conversation to have. I just think for me, someone who has engaged within feminist literature and that sort of space online and in books for years and years, I just feel like there was nothing that I felt like I needed to take from it, which might sound a bit pompous, but that's how I felt. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. So yeah, it's mid and did nothing. That being said, I can see why so many people love it. Anne Liang. I love your brain. Big brain. So I'm Not Jessica Chen follows Jenna Chen, the cousin of Jessica Chen, who has always wanted to be like Jessica. And I, in case you don't know, have a bookstagram where I upload book reviews often. And this one was so difficult to put into words how I felt about it, because I just wanted to cry. Like, this describes perfectly how I felt when I was 17, but also how I feel at 22, and I'm afraid I will forever feel, which is what Jenna talks about. I think it's like, I don't, it's vulnerable. This book was vulnerable for me, and I kind of don't want people to read it because then they'll be getting a really deep insight into my brain, and that's scary. And it's like, I don't, stay away from me, you know? Anyways, so I'm gonna put this in the top tier. I'm gonna even rate this higher than If You Could See the Sun, which is my other Anne Liang book that I love and adore very much. Okay, next book, Class Night at the Telegraph Club. This is a very popular book, well loved in many spaces. It's also set in the 50s in America, I think is it California? The main character has just discovered that she's queer. You know, she grew up in Chinatown. She starts going to the Telegraph Club, where it's sort of like a drag club, like there's a male impersonator. But this book was confusing to me. I was confused. I was befuddled quite often. I felt like the book didn't know where it was going. Like, there would go these like 10 pages where the author would go on a rant, or the main character would go on a rant about how terrible these communists are, because that's what the American government is telling them. But then that goes nowhere. Like, there's this guy who tries to trick her and her friend into coming with them and joining their communist youth group, and then she finds out like 100 pages later that her best friend's dating him, and then we hear nothing about it again. Like, I don't know what happens. And like, the Telegraph Club gets shut down and her friend gets arrested, but then we don't know anything, just that she reunites with her girlfriend later on, and like her mom kicks her out, but then in the epilogue she's still sneaking out. And I just wanted to know, is like, because like she was like, oh, by the last chapter she basically chooses her family over being gay, but then in the epilogue she's still going to like clubs, like queer clubs, with her girlfriend. And so I'm like, is she gonna live her life like that forever? Which, if she is, good for her, but like, the book left me with a lot more questions than when I started. This book is gonna be in the tier, because I don't even know what I was reading. Now we're entering our final phase, March. I've read 3 books so far in March. they're funky. My first book that I read is 12th Night by Alexine Farrell Falmouth, who I believe is Olivia Blake's pseudonym when she writes YA. Anyways, I loved this book. Fight me on it. I think this book served funky Y2K YA romance, and I loved it. And to everyone on Goodreads who's being really mean of it, how does it feel not to experience joy and whimsy and happiness? Like, the book is called 12th Night, like Shakespeare's night, but like night. And look at the cover, sword to the neck, and all the little funky things, like the main guy, Jack Orsino, his dad and his brothers are really good football players, and he's a good football player, which makes him the Duke because his dad's the king, his brother is the prince, he's the Duke, so he's Duke Orsino. She's Viola. Like, the Shakespeare references, the Shakespeare jokes, like, I loved it. Was it right there in my face? Yes. Was it subtle? No. But I loved it, and I ate it up. And people were like, oh, the main character's a bitch, the main character's mean. I am the main character, so if you hate Viola, you hate me. Which, if you hate Viola, don't watch this video. I don't like you. Anyways, so I'm gonna say this book altered my brain chemistry. Am I really easy to please? Yeah. But at least I know joy and happiness. What do you know? You're the one who doesn't know. Oh, I was gonna make a Harry Potter reference in 2025. Anyways, my next book I read is called Conditions of a Heart, and I'm gonna put this book right away in great but did nothing for me. I think objectively this is a really good book. I do think it could have used, again, like 50 more pages. The main character has EDS, POTS, and MCAS, which is like the trifecta of chronic illness. I think I don't have any of these that I know of, but I think it was like the chronic illness representation was done really, really well. I think the representation of, you know, being a woman of color whose mom like has had to take time off due to her daughter being chronically ill and now trying to go back into the workforce, and then evil white people are making it hard, and so she has to make a lot of concessions. I think these conversations were done really, really well. Like, I really liked this book. I just didn't connect to it. Like, while reading it, there were parts where I got really emotional. I was like, this is a vulnerable book for me to be reading or even speaking about. But then it did nothing. I finished the book. I got caught off again, but I was trying to say I finished the book and I haven't thought about it since. Our final book to discuss is Into That Forest by Louis Nour. I read this book for uni, which... Have I ever read a book for uni that I've enjoyed? No. I think, again, like, objectively, this is a good book. I just feel about it the way I feel about hood feminism, in the sense that, first of all, I think we as a nation in the year of 2025 do not need to constantly be making or writing more. I just realized this book was written like when was this written? Like 2000, I don't know, whenever it was. Like, it's not super modern, okay? But in the modern world, I just feel like we've moved past the need for allegories and metaphors and lyrical writing to describe how harsh and brutal and evil colonialism and forced assimilation of people of color is. Or, you know, like, I'm not even gonna say was, like, is. It continues to be. Colonialism is still very rampant. It's still a terrible thing that's still happening very much right in front of our eyes. Watch the news, people, credible news. And I just feel like we've moved past the need for those allegories of animals and plants and all that. I feel like there is an abundance of them, and we've moved past that need. And that's all I feel about this book. So I'm gonna put this, I'm not even gonna put this in the disappointment tier, because I had no expectations going into it. This is just bad. This is a bad book. Well, it's objectively a good book, and if my good friend Sophia were here, she'd be like, yes, I love this book. I didn't, and I think it's unnecessarily sad, and we don't need that anymore. There are a lot more stories that we can be teaching and we can be reading if we wanted to discuss forced assimilation and civilization versus nature and all those. So anyways, that was me tier ranking all 19 books I've read this year. Thank you so much for joining me and hanging out with me. Anyways, thank you so much, and I have to go to sleep because I have uni tomorrow and it's 10:40 p.m. I love you. I'll see you soon.